Flight boss, bitch, you know, for sure. You're not listening to the mind of an Antares Moon, the little Archangel Uriel, and Flight boss here to carry out God duties and motherfucking responsibilities. And right now, we're gonna talk about retrogrades. Now, retrogrades. What is a retrograde? Now, I'm not even sure if I talked about this before. I might have did, but you know, I got a lot of new subscribers. That might have been when I had probably like 3,000 subscribers or something like that. So, you know what I'm saying? It's a new, live, and fresh one if I have made one already before. Here's a brand new version. Um, Now retrograde, well, up to date version. So retrograde represents past tense because anytime you see a retrograde, you see what I'm saying? It looks stagnated, or it's in one place, or it's in a certain phase, or it's actually moving backwards. You see what I'm saying? So we got all these energies that play out in their own kind of way. Like when you see a planet that's stationary, that means the way the energy gonna play out through you is stationary. You see what I'm saying? So if you have a retrograde planet, right, that's where something, or you have a stationary planet, that's the kind of energy it plays out, whatever that planet is. And then if it's a transit today that's going on, and you relating to the planets, and that planet is in some type of retrograde or stationary, then your access to it is going to either be stagnated or seem like it's going backwards or going to the past or some type of resentment or some type of regret to it. You see what I'm saying? So based upon your angle, if you're a square, opposition, or trine or sextile to today's retrograde, if it was a retrograde today or whatever, whenever it's a retrograde, then just know that square or that opposition or that trine or that sextile or whatever channeling lights is going to be channeling each other from you and the planet is going to play out in either a stationary way, like, or stagnated way, or a way of bringing you into the past and creating a circumstance or situation in your life that a past tense obstacle come up. So, for an example, now let's get into we have to cancel out the sun and the moon. Now you have a lot of charts and you have a lot of astrologers that like to say that the North Node can be in retrograde, but you know I really don't I really haven't came to grips with that yet. I understand it, I can explain it, but I didn't really come to grips with it because the moon doesn't actually go into retrograde. To really be technical, no planet actually goes in the retrograde or stationary. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of illusion. But when you're on a planet, you're only going to see things based upon what's relative to the planet you're on. So if you're in a body, you can only see or understand something relative to the body you're in. So if things going to appear that way to the planet you're in, then that's the way the energy going to be received. Same way when you learning or you're trying to understand something, you don't understand something the same way the people next to you understand something. You understand it the best way you understand it, the best way you can relate to it. Relative, rotation, all those is really the same words, just in different dimensions. You see what I'm saying? So based upon your position and what's relative to you, how you receive that light, that's the best way you understood it. But you still understood it differently than someone next to you. So for an example, but you could still only understand it. You could still only see things from your perspective. So if we're in a body like Earth, Gaia, then we can only see things from her perspective. So from her perspective, if something appears stagnated, then the energy you're going to receive is stagnated from that. Whether you're on a rather from another planet perspective is not stationary, that doesn't have anything to deal with you because you're in this planet relative to this time and relative to this rotation. So it's relative from your perspective. So you have to understand that. This is how we start to understand the difference between Vedic and Sidereal and Western. This is all one, but they all looked at in different perspectives, and they're not made to compete. They're their own science. They're their own thing. You know what I'm saying? You can get help from all of it. You see what I'm saying? Now, when you want to talk about retrogrades, this is why I haven't really came to grips with the North Node, because see, the North Node and the South Node is correlated to the moon. You see what I'm saying? The North Node is the top of the moon. So it's the say when you was born, right? Your moon had the snapshot. Boom. That's where your moon was at. That's the degree. So ahead of the moon, you haven't went there yet. So it's unexperienced. So that would be the North Node, your travel, your spiritual travel. that's yet for your soul to experience. You know, your spirit, when it goes into a realm of reality, aka when your spirit went through the sun and got filtered through the stationary moon, which it got, now you're experiencing this realm of reality, it became a soul, a vibration, right? So the moon is like a Merkaba. It's almost like a satellite in so many ways. So as you go to the spiritual travel or whatever like that, the the moon north node that's on top of the moon. It didn't go there yet. So this is why this would be your spiritual enlightenment or your spiritual path, or because your soul haven't experienced yet. Your spirit and soul, it hasn't experienced yet. Now, the south node is the bottom of the moon. So that's where the moon was coming from before you was born with that snapshot. So the moon was already traveling. So look, this is all the information that your moon has accumulated before, boom, you came out and took your first breath and that first astrological snapshot. So boom. So all this is things you brought from the past, from any past life experience, from any past, the things that make you feel comfortable, the things you're going to cling on to, the things you cling on to make you feel comfortable in a society that force comfortability and things of that nature. And these going to be playing out as certain things in your life that if you cling to it too much, it may get taken away, or something may happen in order to force your moon to move. Because this is going to be the point of a progress chart. See, a progress chart is where your planets actually are now. But see, that's getting into the north node, south node, and the travels, and then the travels of all your planet. And then when we talk about progress, but that's another video. You see what I'm saying? But everything correlates with each other. So that's why. But I just had to break down the science why I don't necessarily I haven't really wrapped my head around calling a north node a retrograde yet, and I'll be noticing that in some charts people be having the north node in retrograde. Like, so it's like the moon don't go on a retrograde, so it's impossible. But that's another video. You know what I'm saying? We could argue with that and break that down another time. But let's talk about the actual planets that can be stationary and retrograde. So let's start with Mercury. Now Mercury is thinking, communicating, and analyzing. You see what I'm saying? And being curious and looking at the details and the instructions of things. So when you have Mercury in retrograde or Mercury being stationary, at that time of purpose, things is going to be stagnated. Your ideas, you may be fixated on one idea, or it may be hard for you to accumulate other ideas because of the stagnated energy that's going on. Also, ways of communicating, you're gonna find yourself communicating over and over about the same thing. You know what I'm saying? As far as information, you're gonna find yourself being fixated on a specific amount of information. So, really is good. It's a gift and curse to everything. It's a gift and curse to everything. You see what I'm saying? But the goodness out of Mercury being stationary is because, see, Mercury is so fluid, especially when Mercury in Gemini or Mercury in another air sign. It's so fluid and so fast. Sometimes it could be thinking on so many things at one time, and it could be a jack of all trades, but it could become forgetful and lose things at times too. But for the most part, it can think about a lot of things. But when it's stationary, it will allow an air sign or wherever your Mercury at to stay fixated on one thought and idea and accumulate a lot of ideas about that one thing so you can see it through. So that'd be the gift about stationary. Now, when we talk about retrograde, this is still a gift and a curse also. Retrograde is when you have to look towards past tense. You have to look towards past tense either from your own or other people's ways of handling the energy, which will be the planet. So since we talk about Mercury, if you have Mercury in retrograde or you're dealing with Mercury retrograde in general, this means looking at past tense of your own or other people's ways of thinking, communicating, and analyzing. You know what I'm saying? And knowing what to take and what not to take to the present in order to move on to the future effectively. You see what I'm saying? So you have to look towards the past of your own or other people's ways of thinking, communicating, and analyzing, and seeing what worked, see what didn't work, and knowing what to bring to the present and what not to bring to the present, so you can move to the future effectively without going over those same hurdles and experiences that you don't want to experience over and over again. So you see what I'm saying? That's so when you look at it like that, this Mercury retrograde in your chart will bring a lot of past things dealing with communications in your life. Things that you should have looked at the details, but you didn't look over the details. You know what I'm saying? Past communications with people, past relationships with people, past past informations that you may have looked over. It's going to bring all that up. And even when we talk about things dealing with electronics and technology and things of that nature. When we talk about the Mercury element in general, it's played out in a lot of electricity and a lot of technologies nowadays. So when a planet, when a planet like Mercury in retrograde or stationary, it's actually the ruler of that element. So, you'll get a lot of freezing on your computer or your phone. Your phone will freeze and lag a lot. And then if it's in retrograde, you know what I'm saying, you'll pull up a lot of past shit, a lot of things you thought you deleted come up again. A lot of old things, a lot of the fucking shit, a reboot, everything tied to the re energy, like redoing or rebooting or reissuing. Something may get deleted, you know what I'm saying? So you have to redo it, or you ain't rethink something and reanalyze. A lot of anything attached to the re energy, a lot of times go on when Mercury is in retrograde, which starts with RE also. You see what I'm saying? So a lot of redoing things. Anytime, see, we ain't even got to talk about the actual planets or lights. We can just talk about letters and the frequency energy that it carry out. Just by it being called retrograde, starting off with RE, it's letting you know that it's carrying a frequency that anything tied to it, you have to rehatch or redo or something like that. Now, when we talk about Venus being in retrograde, now, Venus being in retrograde, you know what I'm saying? Venus is how you love, appreciate, value, how you relate to others, the things you're willing to compromise with. You know what I'm saying? The things you may overindulge in, and things you need to learn how to do in moderation because it entices your pleasures. But for the most part, that's what Venus. Venus spreads love, but people need to know that love ain't the overall energy. It's one of the most powerful just in this realm of reality. Because since you in an animal like reality, animals need love, need taken care of. You know what I'm saying? And when it's man like being out there, they're consciously aware to either abuse you or love you. So when you do receive love, the love gonna seem more powerful in this realm of reality. But then when you receive hate, hate sparks enough energy. See, hate, when this snake like draconic being that you in receive hate, it gives it a spark, it gives that fire and flame to escape, to run. This is why when you being in this being we in, when you experience emotions and feelings like that of hatred, it makes you hatred makes you get up. It gives you the energy to actually do something, to actually be aggressive, to actually get motivated, to actually have passion, to actually move out the way, to have a desire. You see what I'm saying? So you have this being that we in have experienced immense hate of harm, hate of being abused, hate from being looked at as just an animal. You know what I'm saying? To the point that the beings within it, you know what I'm saying, don't know anything else but to just live like animals or things of that nature, or cavemen. So it's just all about perspective, but it's the whole totality of the perspective of the being we in. So when you want to talk about Mercury, I mean Venus in retrograde or stationary. Let's say stationary. Stationary is going to be like this. Anything that you love, it could be a person, place, or thing. The stuff that you value could be a person, place, or thing. How you relate and things you're willing to compromise with is going to be stagnated at the moment. So you're not going to see any type of progress. It may be people like a person in your life that, you know what I'm saying, you see the bad and wrong in this person, but it's just things ain't moving. Even if you want to break up, you're not going to break up at that time. Or you may be in a situation that you want to get with someone, but you're not going to be able to get with them at that time because Venus is stationary. So you have to observe the energy of that stationary energy, learning patience on love. And within that patience, you're going to start to learn how to love yourself, love and appreciate yourself. And then that's going to draw people in. So it may not even play out through that person that you actually wanted. It could play out through a person, place, or thing, or another person. But you're going to receive that love in some type of way. That's what station is, a gift and a curse to everything. But the curse is when Venus is in stationary, it'll make you feel like love is never there, or you'll never receive your pleasures, or it's harder to compromise, or it's harder to get your pleasures, or it's harder to be pleasured by the things that usually pleasure you. You know what I'm saying? Now, when you get into retrograde, now this is love too. Past love or past relationships may come up. Or if you have retrograde Venus in your chart, you may always keep like for an example, no matter what relationship you get into, you always attach your past relationship to the next person. And they say you're not supposed to do this. You know what I'm saying? Because when you get into a relationship, You're supposed to leave the doors open for that person to be themselves. Don't just start tying a bunch of problems that you had in your last relationship to this relationship, because the only thing that actually happens is you manifest the same problems. It ain't that this person is causing the same problems. You manifest the same circumstance and situation than the last person. That's almost like if a person tell you they had the same kind of situation that they had with another person, same type of relationship that they had with another person, same kind of conversation that they had with another person, then that leads you to understand that it wasn't the people that they was talking to or in a relationship with, it was that actual person. You see what I'm saying? So this is what you need to understand about yourself when you talk about Venus being in retrograde or Venus being being stationary. Now Venus being in retrograde, you know what I'm saying, you're gonna find yourself you cling on to habits. If you got Venus retrograde in your chart, you may be a person who it may be a little harder to get out of habits than others. So you cling on to habits because you keep going to past pleasures. You know what I'm saying? Past compromises. And the things that you was compromising with may have not been good with you, may not have been good for you. So you will compromise the things that is good for you, or compromise other people's advice for the sake of keep going that pleasure or that value. You see what I'm saying? So you have to be very careful if you're a person who got Venus in retrograde. Stationary is a little easier, but be careful there too. Mars. Mars is your intent, willpower, passion, and motivation and desire. Now, Mars being stationary, a lot of time your passions, your motivations, the things that you go for, gonna be stagnated. And if you try to go for it while now this is the transit. If you try to go for it while Mars is stationary, you know what I'm saying, it's gonna place obstacles and situations in your life to sit down for a little bit and understand the parameters of your desires. Now, if you're a person who just naturally have Mars and stationary, then you naturally go through this. So you naturally get over these things. But these are obstacles that you make and teach others if you don't let it overtake you all the time and just get frustrated with life. But your desires and your passions and motivations gonna in your life and your goals always gonna appear stagnated for some reason. But you end up developing way more knowledge about your goals than the people who actually get it before you. So it's almost like that saying that the people who get things fast lose it fast, and the person who took a little time to get it, they know how to keep it. This is kind of that syndrome going on with people who got Mars stationary in their chart. You see what I'm saying? So Mars stationary in their chart, these people who have to sit back and witness other people get their goals and desires before them, but when this person actually get it, they actually can understand if it was actually an actual desire or not, and how to keep it. You see what I'm saying? Now let's get to retrograde. Now Mars in retrograde, this is a person who like to harbor over. So it's a gift and a curse to everything. Retrograde and stationary play differently in every planet. Now this is how it play in Mars. Now the gift of it is it make a person keep going towards their desires, keep going towards their passions. Even if other people trying to say, man, you still on that? Like people put your goals in the realm of reality as it's something old or something past tense. So but you look at it like it's something you're just working on, and it don't matter how long it take, you're gonna get there. You see what I'm saying? So this will make a person keep working on their goals and desires, no matter how long it take. Even if other people appear that this person is clinging on to old things, old goals, old desires, old passions. You know what I'm saying? So that's the gift. Now the curse with a person with Mars in retrograde could be when a person take their desires and their passions and they don't know how to let go. You know what I'm saying? They keep experiencing failure with their goals. They keep experiencing failure with their desires. They keep not even being able to reach in their desires. Every time they have a desire, they create a bigger desire for themselves. Every time they get it, now they want something greater. They never satisfied. You know what I'm saying? So it plays out as a harbor in time in their life. But that could be a gift also. People who so hungry that they never satisfied with less. But you know, it could be a curse because that could be a long journey and a long, hard work, no play type life to the point that you never even got to enjoy all your desires that you got. Because once you got your desires, they didn't seem like desires when you got them. So it's a big mental, dangerous place to get into. But you know, when Mars is in retrograde, that's how things can play out in your life. You know what I'm saying? You have to look towards past tense of your own or other people's ways of dealing with desires, passions, motivations, and aggressiveness, and knowing what to take and what not to take, knowing what to do and what not to do in the present in order to move on to the future effectively. So you don't be going over old mistakes, experiencing old mistakes, mistakes that you should have been learned, and things of that nature. Now, let's get to Jupiter. Jupiter in retrograde. Now, Jupiter being in retrograde right here. Hold on one second. Knocking at the door. But yeah, where was I at? I was Jupiter retrograde. Now, Jupiter retrograde. Um, Now, with Jupiter being in retrograde, now Jupiter is going to bring, whether bad or good, it causes expansion because it brings experiences in your life. And the expansion comes from the wisdom and knowledge you extract from that experience and the new meanings and reasonings you could place on that experience. When those two things come together, that causes expansion for your experience and what you experience in the existence that you in. So when we want to talk about Jupiter being let's talk about stationary first. Now, Jupiter, because it's a different science. People want to say stationary is retrograde or whatever, like, but they play on two different energies, and you feel it. You feel it. Now, Jupiter is stationary. This means any type of wisdom and knowledge you try to obtain, any type of meanings or reasonings you try to put on thing, any experience you're going through, it's going to seem stationary. It's going to seem like this experience is long drawn out. It's gonna feel like the experience you're going through never end. I mean, even if you just go out and experience a walk, and the walk up and down the street that usually be fast any other day, that day when Jupiter is stationary, when you experience that walk, it's gonna seem a lot longer than it did any other day. Guaranteed. You see what I'm saying? Because Jupiter brings experiences, and and all the wisdom and knowledge you extract from that experience is on you. But everything is an experience. This is what Jupiter brings. This is why Jupiter is so big itself. Uh, but for the most part, yeah, when Jupiter is stationary, this is all the wisdom and knowledge is going to seem forever to learn. You know what I'm saying? You're going to be learning a bunch of stuff, but you're going to find yourself harboring on certain things to learn. You can't find yourself, like when Jupiter is stationary, you can't, or Jupiter stationary in your chart, you're going to learn something, but want to learn everything about that. And even if you end up learning everything about that, you're going to be like, man, that's it. I want to learn more about, because it's stationary. So your wisdom and knowledge is stationary on one specific thing, information that you're trying to learn from. Now, when Jupiter is in retrograde, you know what I'm saying? Now, we can talk about gift and the curse with the stationary. Gift and the curse is like, the gift is you're able to understand something to a totality. The curse is you may have took a long time learning something that you really didn't need to be consciously aware of or need to be experiencing in the first place. And people do, and this play out in so many lower levels and higher levels. You could be a person in your neighborhood, and when Jupiter going stationary, or if you got Jupiter stationary in your chart, you want to sit here and learn about one thing in your neighborhood the most. It may be, let's say, for an example, let's say it's drug dealing or it's hustling, and you want to learn everything about that to the most. But if in a grand totality of things, right, that's not even something you was even supposed to be wasting half of your life on doing. You see what I'm saying? So it's a play out on so many scales, but that's how Jupiter play when it's stationary. Jupiter in retrograde. Now, past experiences gonna come in your life. So past things that you ain't learned from, certain experiences you went through that you ain't fully changed from, yeah, they coming right back in your life. And if you got Jupiter retrograde in your life, in your own personal chart, then you constantly going through this. This happens if you're a person that got Jupiter retrograde in your natural chart, and it's not just a transit. Then you are the type of person that stuff like this happen to you. You see a lot of people getting away with stuff, right? The moment you do it, you get caught the first time. It don't work for you the first time. Like you like, dang, I'm just trying to relax and do shit like everybody else. But the moment I do it, I get caught faster than everybody else, or I get blamed for it. Everybody, that's because Jupiter brings experiences, and it's in retrograde. So off the bat, it's like you have to experience the past circumstances quicker than others, but it'll play out in that way. You know what I'm saying? So you have to look towards past tense of your own or other people's experiences and their wisdom and knowledge and things that they add wisdom and meanings and reasonings to know what worked and what didn't work, so you can know what to bring to the present to move to the future effectively. You see what I'm saying? Because Jupiter in retrograde in your chart bring old experiences, things that you should have been learned, that you kind of know better, but you kind of temper and play around with because just to do it or just to see if you was actually right, but you knew better. So you're gonna experience the bad opposing end of that situation because you knew better. You were supposed to be wise enough. You were supposed to have enough wisdom. So there's no excuses for you. And see, that's the role Jupiter will play for you like that. I know it's bad, but it's good for you because you're supposed to be the wise person. So act like it. Now, Jupiter and Saturn, I mean, not Jupiter, woohoo, retrograde Saturn. Now, Saturn, what is Saturn? Saturn is how one gonna see the reality, how one sees the reality of the experience we in. So Saturn is crystal hardcore, you know what I'm saying? It's clear about its shit. And it don't really reflect in no light, so it's not on no bullshit expressions. So when we talk about Saturn, Saturn is how one sees reality, but it's also how one gains structure in their life, whether that's based upon a person, place, or thing, or job, or whatever like that, and or a gadget. And it's also where one places, but also receives boundaries or restrictions and limits. So it's important to know where your Saturn is at because that's going to let you know where you be drawing your line at and placing boundaries and restrictions and limits on others. But it also lets you know where the area of life you experience boundaries and get that in return. You see what I'm saying? Now, see, a lot of times the obstacles that y'all be witnessing be the same thing that y'all be giving to others as obstacles towards you. So y'all don't be knowing that though, but it's real. The stuff that you block and won't do be the stuff that you experience that you want to do and can't do. For real. You gotta think about it like this. You gotta think about it like this. You want people to listen to your music, but you're not willing to listen to other people's music. So that's the energy you gave out. You gave out an energy of not listening to somebody's music. So what chances of people going to listen to you? You see what I'm saying? What chances of people going to listen to your music? Everything is energy flow. It ain't what you're trying to talk about and put out. It's what you're actually putting out. You see what I'm saying? Regardless if you want to go in the spirit realm or the physical realm, it don't matter. But we want to talk about Saturn being stationary. Now, Saturn being stationary, this means a person is going to be fixated. Now, it's a gift and a curse, but you know, stationary actually works a lot better with Saturn than really Saturn just going on his own too when it's not in retrograde. Because stationary, this makes a person fixated on reality. So they like to see reality and they making sure that everything makes sense in front of them. The way they gain structure in their life, they stay put. They don't move nowhere unless whatever they're moving is an efficient place to move, and it's a better place to move from where they just moved from. AKA if that was a job or a person or a relationship or whatever. You know what I'm saying? These people know how to stay stationary and how they gain structure in their life. So they know how to build. They know how to save. They know how to stay stationary. They know how to stay put until the time is right. You know what I'm saying? They know how to not trap. They know how to accumulate and stack before they travel. You see what I'm saying? Stationary and Saturn is this motherfucking basis. You see what I'm saying? Now, when you want to talk about the bad part about it is this is a person who may be stingy, a person who don't get out of their run, people who don't let out. You know what I'm saying? People who don't express. So that's the bad, but that's the curse. Now, when we talk about retrograde, the totality of it, and let's talk about retrograde, where it goes a little deeper, the end period of the stationary on retro. Because when you're seeing something in retrograde, really, it's really just being stationary. But the end period of it is only when you really see the retrograde, when you see it move and move, that's when they actually move backwards. So this is why I'm trying to separate the energies for y'all, so y'all can understand. So when they say a planet is in retrograde, it's actually stationary and it's not moving, and you're just moving because you're on Earth. Earth retrograde too. I'm gonna speak upon that after this, but you know what I'm saying? It's actually not moving. Then once it starts moving again, based upon the planet you're on Earth, based upon the relativity it is to here, it's gonna appear as the now it start to retrograde, but really that's when it start moving again. But that's another video. You know what I'm saying? Any true astrologer know what I'm talking about. You know what I'm saying? Now, who really thought about it? You see what I'm saying? Now, when you talk about Saturn going in retrograde, now past work ethics, past realities, you know what I'm saying? Past ways of gaining structure in your life, you may stumble and fall over those. Like a lot of times those don't work. Anytime you're trying to cling on a way, it don't work. So when you got Saturn in retrograde, it kind of hurts a little bit because you see what I'm saying? When you're using the stationary part, that say that's the gift. But the curse part will be the totality of it, which is still retrograde. This a curse. When it's time to move along, and change your job or change your relationship or change that way that you was gaining structure in your life when it start playing out in your life to show you that it's really not working the way that you think it's working. This is the time you're supposed to jump up and let go, regardless of how scary it might be of letting this go, or regardless how the fear you may have that something may happen if you leave this job right now or something like that. You know, when people got Saturn in retrograde, you kind of got to get over that shit. Get over that fear. You got to get over those mechanisms and get over those energies fast, because you're going to keep experiencing hell, be it working in the call boats and having an unpleasant experience anytime you're gaining structure in your life. The things that help you gain structure in your life is always an unpleasant experience. Like, you might have certain people in your life that help you gain structure, like in your life. Certain people that you rely on, but just relying on them hurt you. You see what I'm saying? To the depth, it make you feel like, damn, I hate I have to depend on this person, or damn, I hate I have to depend on this thing, or damn, I hate I have to depend on this job. You know what I'm saying? That's how Saturn if a person with Saturn in retrograde, that's how it's gonna play out in your life. Anything you got gain structure in your life, or any person, place, or thing, or even how you see reality. How you see reality, a lot of times you find yourself clinging towards past realities. You like to look towards how past people see reality, past religions see reality, how past organizations see reality. And this is how you formulate how you see reality now in order to move on to the future effectively. But you already kind of doing that to a certain degree with Saturn, but I'm here to let you know that if you do got Saturn in retrograde, learn what not to take, which you're kind of stable, because Saturn represents stability. So if you got retrograde and if you got Saturn in the retrograde, you kind of already got that understanding. Like, okay, this was a past mistake. I know not to do that now. You kind of got that understanding better than all the other retrogrades. See what I'm saying? Now retrograde. Now let's talk about Uranus. Uranus. No, well, let's talk about Earth. Earth retrograde. Gaia. Yes, Gaia actually goes into retrograde, because we know that by when we see another planet being stationary. You know what I'm saying? Going in retrograde and things of that nature. From the sun and the moon perspective, these things are not really doing that. But if we see something relative to us doing that, like I said, what you're channeling, also you channels you also. So there's certain times when Earth Gaia goes into retrograde. You know what I'm saying? And if you don't believe me, I need you to understand, when we calculate dates and time and stuff, this is how you understand that. This is how you end up getting 365 days. This is how you end up getting, you know what I'm saying? You think it's 24 hours, but there's really just 23 hours and a few centimeters over. This is where you get every 4 years you got the a leap year in February. You see what I'm saying? This is how you correlate to Earth going in retrograde. See, something has to be made up for these times. So as long as Earth been going in retrograde, as long as men been trying to calculate the time in between, or try to understand the loss of time. Now, every man and every civilization have been coming up with their own way of trying to calculate. Like, you got the Gregorian calendar, the main calendar, try to accommodate this loss of time. But y'all got it here first from Archangel Uriel. This is where it comes from. This is where all that shit actually comes from. Because Earth, the planet you actually in, actually has a retrograde, a stationary cycle like these other planets. Now, and now the energy you feel, it plays out in those ways I just explained, with the time and stuff like that. But let me give you the energy. I can't just give you the left brain of it. Got to give you the right brain of it now. Now let's talk about the energy when Gaia goes into retrograde and when Earth goes into retrograde. Gaia, Earth, Taurus, whatever you want to call it. You see what I'm saying? Now, you have to look towards, now let's say stationary. Now let's start off with stationary. Stationary is you're going to be fixated on ways of caring, fixated on ways of nurturing, fixated on your way of growth, of your way of receiving information, of your way of receiving in general. Earth is a receiving energy, and the things you receive, you're here to make something out of it, make something solid out of it. So if you're receiving love, you need to ground it and make something out of it by pushing it back off and creating a foundation of love. If you're receiving care, receiving nurture, you need to ground it. Same way, that's why you see trees, flowers. These are grounded versions of love. You see what I'm saying? And nurture and caring. This is why you can feed from them. You know what I'm saying? In any kind of way, shape, and form that you please. People like to say, some people like to say you eat from it. Some people like to say, some humans like to cut them down. You know what I'm saying? Some humans like to trim them. Some humans like to leave it up for oxygen, and you know what I'm saying? Some humans like to draw the fruit from it. It don't matter, yo. It don't matter about your realm or illusion or energy about it. Only thing that matters is the energy and what it get, and it's going to give that. It's going to give that. So that's what Earth we're on. Earth is going to keep reproducing. Same way you in a relationship or something with something or somebody, and you want to keep reproducing. That's the same way Earth think about it. So it's a give and receive. Sometimes you feel like you give a little too much, and somebody take advantage, and sometimes you feel stingy and feel like you have to retreat a little bit. Earth is the same way. So it's all a give and receive. It's all a balance. It's going to balance itself out one way or another. We're not in control of that because we're in it. So it's sustaining us. We're not sustaining it. But if we can work together, and sustain it, and it sustain us, it can work. It working together. But we have to know perception on what's doing what, so we can know what roles we play, and we're not taking bigger roles than we need to actually take on. But for the most part, you know, these energies play tricky. You know what I'm saying? I can only be the messenger. That's all I can do. That's all I can be. You know what I'm saying? Now, when we talk about Earth, when it's stationary, Earth being I thought I fucked something up. Earth being stationary is we stay fixated on certain ways of caring, certain ways of being nurtured, and we may stay stuck on that for a few days. This is how you know things is not moving. People are not growing at the time. People are not taking care of things at the time. People are not being nurturing at the time. You see what I'm saying? And this is when it'll play out where you start feeling like, man, fuck this shit. What is this shit doing for me? You won't mind killing an animal or a bug that day. You will have certain thoughts in your head that day of, oh, this shit really don't matter anyway. Even if, I don't care if you're the person who cling on to this shit like this is the most mattering in the world. You know what I'm saying? Those thoughts and days that you start to feel like, man, this shit really matter and stuff like that, that lets you know, boom, Earth was stationary. See what I'm saying? Now, when Earth goes in retrograde, you know what I'm saying? Past ways of nurturing, past ways of caring, past ways of growing, pop up in your life and show you where you haven't been growing at. You see what I'm saying? So these are the days that you may get sick for no reason, or you may feel like you need to overeat. You know what I'm saying? Or these be the days that on Earth a new food come out. You know what I'm saying? Or like a new type of plate come out, or at a restaurant or some shit like that. You know what I'm saying? Or new species on Earth had just been found. You know what I'm saying? Things of that nature. Now you'll probably hear about this every day if you into it, but I'm talking about when it make global reference. You know what I'm saying? When it make global reference. Like the day McDonald's got chicken wings. I know there's a lower vibration of it though, but the day McDonald's got chicken wings, that was more of a global effect than McDonald's having chicken nuggets. Everybody already knew McDonald's had chicken nuggets. You know what I'm saying? In some cities, people knew that McDonald's had chicken wings. But when it started spreading through the totality, you started seeing it on the news. McDonald's like to get chicken wings. So that was at a time that Earth was in retrograde. You see what I'm saying? You gotta understand these type of things. Like things that go on with the Earth is things that's on the Earth. You know what I'm saying? A lot of times when Earth go into retrograde, hurricanes and tornadoes happen. People think it's just dealing with the moon and the tides and shit like that. No, it's when Earth is in retrograde and it's going back. So when energies is going forward, if Earth is coming back and other planets is going forward, it starts a spin cycle. And based upon where Earth was rotating that day, that location is going to catch that spin cycle the harshest. So this is where you get Pacific hurricanes or tornadoes being in Pacific locations on Earth. See what I'm saying? I'm telling you, I'm Archangel Uriel. I did some real astro traveling. You know what I'm saying? Now, when we want to talk about, and that's Earth being in retrograde. Now let's talk about Uranus. Uranus is change, rebellion, opposition, but it's also uniqueness and originality. So when it's stationary, you know, people stay fixated on their own weirdness, fixated on their own uniqueness and originality. You know what I'm saying? And they like to change, rebel, and oppose against the same things. It'll play out on Earth like a person who keep trying to beat a dead horse. People say Remy Ma right now, her dissing Nicki Minaj is keep beating over a dead horse. That she probably got People who do that probably got Uranus stationary in their chart, or retrograde in general in their chart. You see what I'm saying? But let's specifically talk about stationary. It'll play out in a person who keep trying to prove the same point, who keep talking about the same thing, who keep trying to change other people's opinions, and their with their own same way of changing, rebelling, and opposing against it. You see what I'm saying? Now, when we get to retrograde, now the gift of that is, you know what I'm saying, you're able to stay fixated on your own uniqueness and originality. So you don't budge. You don't let nobody change your personality in any kind of way. Now, when we talk about Uranus being in retrograde, Uranus in retrograde, you have to look towards past tense of your own or other people's ways of change, rebellion, and opposition. Any type of past revolutionary moments, any type of revolutionary things you was into, and look towards what worked and what didn't work to bring to the present to move to the future effectively. So it'll play out in your life as a lot of changes that went on in your life, they get brought back in your life. So someone else may go through the same type of changes, and then they come and express these changes to you. So you're able to either help this person and give them some type of change, rebellion, or opposition outlook, or some type of unique and original outlook on that experiences that they went through that's caused them to make them feel like that they was going through changes. You see what I'm saying? It'll play out like that. It'll play out for you to be helpful, for you to give them some form of information. See what I'm saying? Now, Uranus and Neptune. I mean, I keep mixing up because I'm on a ball right now. Fire going off. But let me finish retrograde. And it's going to bring past tense changes in your life, or either someone else going to be experiencing these things, or someone else uniqueness and original circumstances is going to play out from something that you have already experienced, and something that you need to change. For an example, it may be something that you don't want to experience, but you keep attracting in your life because it's something inside you that keep manifesting it. You know what I'm saying? So Uranus even bring that for you to change, rebel, and oppose that in your own unique way in some type of way. So it'll bring that in your life and start causing changes in your life, and for you to change that so it can stop causing changes in your life. Change that inside you so it can stop causing changes externally outside of your life. Now, when we talk about Neptune, stationary Neptune is dreams, illusions, creativity, imagination, fantasy, and spiritual realm, spiritual limits. So so the tricky thing with Neptune is you have a dream which become your imagination. Now your imagination could play out two ways in a society. You could utilize your imagination and people will look at it as an illusion and look at you as crazy, or you could take your imagination and people look at it as creativity, which people look at it as amazing. So keep that in mind. But they're one and the same. It's just we're in a society that like to separate shit. So the negative and positive charge have polar opposites to it. So the positive of it would be creativity. The negative of this one would be illusion. So because you know illusions is looked at as negative. You know creativity is looked at as positive. Even though there's a yin and yang in both of those also. But that's a whole nother video. But when we talk about Neptune stationary, this is a person who can stay fixated on their own dreams, illusions, creativity, and imagination. Now the bad thing about it is when you stay fixated on an illusion, a person in front of you could be showing you all the actions in the world that let you know you need to get the fuck away from them. But based upon your relationship with them and the memories that you have with them and the illusion that you got around them, you're not able to see through and filter through the bullshit that they're actually doing. So you're keeping them around. So this will make a naive person, a person who may doubt their own judgment and doubt their own success and doubt their own talents and things of that nature. But this makes a person actually stay fixated in their dreams and their imagination. It's just when you stay fixated in your dreams, you get lost and it appears as an illusion and you don't express no creativity. So you have to keep that in mind. But these people creativity, their illusion goes so deep that if they was to get out of that and jump into the creative mechanism, their creativity has a wide range. So know that. Now, when we talk about retrograde, you have to look towards past dreams, illusions, creativity, and imagination from your own self or the elders in your life, and know what worked and what don't work in order to bring it to the present to move on to the future. So when you have Neptune retrograde in your chart, it's like you always cling towards childhood things, the things you used to be into when you was a child. And this is a good thing because it's always good to keep a childlike imagination. These are people who never let that go. People who got Neptune retrograde, they never let go their childhood imagination. Now, it can play bad when you're around a bunch of society adults that's everything cancelified based upon what they have learned and things of that nature. So they don't even want to hear what you're saying. Everything you saying don't even make no sense and it's foreign to them. But for the most part, you are able to take yourself way further than them, no matter how much logic you may not have. Neptune in retrograde, these people are able to cling on to their old imagination, their old dreams, their old creativity. People let go of their dreams every day based upon the society that they're in. Oh, damn, I gotta work and I gotta do this, or fuck that dream, fuck this, that, and third. Not no Neptune and retrograde person, they'll never forget the dreams that they always had. Even if they in society and have to compromise and work certain jobs now, they always make sure they're catering to their old dreams. And when you say old dreams, that's the dream could be a present dream, but it's just a dream that you never had let go. See what I'm saying? So it's a good thing. It's a gift and a curse to everything. And I just broke it down, but I look at this as more positive than negative. You see what I'm saying? It's like I said, retrograde work different every planet. It may work worse in one planet, and it may work excellent in another planet. Can't be judgmental. You just gotta feel the energies, and when you express the energies, the way you receive it determine, and the intentions of it determine if it was good or bad. So me even talking about these things right now, you're catching the energy flow of it, and then you can kind of sit back and determine if this was a good retrograde or a bad retrograde. You see what I'm saying? And now you can kind of get a full consist of what's retrogrades going on. So now let's do last but not least, Pluto. Pluto retrograde. Now Pluto is the planet of power and control, transformation, and all that dives into your deep desires, your deep will powers, your deep goals, your deep manifestations, your deep intent, so your deep motivations. It's like Mars, just on the deep end. Mars is intent, willpower, passions, but Mars is like where we're going to eat today. Pluto is like where we're going grocery shopping for the rest of the month. You see what I'm saying? It's more longevity, more distant, more range. You see what I'm saying? So when we talk about Pluto is stationary, right? You're gonna find constantly the same thing keep transforming, and it's gonna play out in your life like this. Something that you just got a grip of, you just got settled. Something else happens. Something else transformed. Boom, you just moved here. Now you gotta move again. Boom, you just got this job. Now you need another job. Boom, you just got this friend. Now something else happened. Boom, you just got into this car accident. Now this happened. This is how stationary Pluto works. Transformations keep happening in the same area of life. You're like, God damn, God damn, God damn. You see what I'm saying? So that's how that works. But it helps you. The gift of it is it helps you get control and power over this to the point that when the same things do keep happening, you're already prepared. So you be over prepared when it don't happen. For an example, say you are a person who witnessed a lot of car accidents, right? But throughout all those experiences, you developed a certain mechanism to yourself to always be prepared. You're a person with 2 cars now. You always keep 2 cars, or you always keep money on deck, or you always keep your insurance. So you will be the person who got better insurance than others, or you'll be the person who's more solidified than others. You will be the person who got a better rainy day than others. When something happened to this, you got something to fall back on quicker than others. You know what I'm saying? So it's a gift and a curse to everything. You know what I'm saying? You prepare for rainy days because you have experienced so many rainy days already. See what I'm saying? Now let's go to retrograde. Retrograde. Pluto on retrograde. Now a lot of past transformations come back up. So either another person who have went through something that you and transformed, or you may be transforming somebody based upon, like, this is resentment. You may have went through something that transformed you, and you just put yourself out in the world to transform others like that. You don't even have to put that on the others, but you want people to learn what you have learned, and that might not have necessarily supposed to have been a lesson for that person. You know what I'm saying? But you just feel like, oh, since I went through that, that's what they got to go through. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? That's what you got to go through and shit like that. But you know, with Pluto in retrograde, it's like past tense, past power and control issues. Like power and control issues, you need to let go. And it might be people, places, and things, or circumstances that play out in your life that show you from a front street that you have a power and control issue, but you're not willing to learn from that person, place, or thing based upon the situation, how it play out. You're going to keep experiencing those if you got Pluto in retrograde. You know what I'm saying? Like I have Pluto in retrograde in my chart. So certain power and control issues that I don't be getting over, I keep having experienced that. I keep drawing in people in my life that have these same problems. I keep drawing in circumstances and situations in my life that I know I transformed from, or I need to transform from. For an example, it might be something I have transformed from already, right? I'm going to manifest somebody in my life that need transforming from that same exact situation. So I have to take power and control over do I want to dive back into that energy or not? Because it's going to be a form of I don't want to experience that no more. So I don't need to surround myself around people, places, or things like that no more. But then a purpose jump into that like, damn, well, maybe I need to help them. So that's almost like taking control and power over that circumstance and situation, which that's a gift and a curse too. So it's like a little dilemma that you have with such a powerful energy like Pluto being in retrograde. You see what I'm saying? But Pluto being in retrograde, and then it could be things that I need to transform from, right? So circumstances keep playing out in my life to keep reminding me that, look, this is what you need to transform from, or else you're going to keep experiencing this. You see what I'm saying? So it's like it's tricky, and then it won't let you get your desires, your deep desires, or your deep passions, or it won't let you get your deep motivations out, or you won't be able to experience it unless you get over that power and control and transformation issues. Until you get over those issues with Pluto, the power of the P, the pussy, you know what I'm saying, or the power. Until you get over those things, you won't experience your deep desires. And the most successful businessman understand this, and woman understand this more than anybody. But that's motherfucking Pluto, and that's motherfucking retrogrades in the totality. Because it's gonna make your ass redo something. So I hope you redo this video. Not redo, but rewatch this video so you can understand what this retrograding is gonna be doing anytime it play out in your life or transiting. Flight boss, bitch. Goddamn.